FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. Yes, it is the year 2015. And actually, Ricky's lucky because we got Ricky from XFactor1 on the line. You're my first interview of 2015, so yeah, that's a pretty big honor. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we got to make it an impact. I got to tell you, I'm still drunk from 2014.
Well, that's the reason why I couldn't do any interviews until now. I finally have sobered up a little bit.
Oh, man. You know, the only way to do it when you're on the road is the hair of the dog, and I've mastered the art of that hair of the dog for sure.
Hey, we're talking with Ricky from the band XFactor1. It's a band located out of Columbus, Ohio. And since I got you, and we're talking about the band right away, let's get the history of the band. How did this band all come about, Ricky?
Well, we were, some of us were in another band. Some of the original members of this particular band we were together in another group that had some pretty good regional success called Super Freak, and that kind of just came to an end after one big bar brawl one night of guys who cared about each other, but at the same time, when you're trapped in a van on tour with different guys in your roadie, 4 out of 5 nights a week, it's very easy for all those idiosyncrasies that everybody has to get on each other's nerves. So we just had one big festival brawl that was just embarrassingly brutal, and that fell apart, and we waited a few months, and everybody kind of licked their wounds, and a couple of us got back together, and the nucleus of Super Freak, and started XFactor1 back in 2006. So we've been out there pounding the ground and moving around all over the United States for the last 9 years as XFactor1.
Yeah, and you mentioned XFactor1, the name. How did the name all come about?
Well, XFactor1, an X Factor is kind of like an intangible. It's like it's an unpredictable force, and we got together and thought about names. We threw a million names together, but we just thought that and again, we were around before the TV show The X Factor was and stuff. We've been around for years before that. And it sucks to kind of be compared to that situation, but X Factor is like it's like an intangible, and it's an unpredictable force, and we kind of wanted to be the number one untangible, and all the things that we got into, and all the songs that that we put together, kind of just wanted to be just again that unpredictable force. So. In all things. So that's kind of how that name came about.
Very cool, very cool. We're talking to Ricky. He's the lead singer of the band XFactor1. And, Ricky, one of the things I like to find out from artists is really what kind of inspired you to become an artist for the music side of things and make the music that you do.
Well, to be completely honest with you, to keep as real as possible, the sex, drugs, and 80s rock. I mean, obviously the best, time frame and genre for what I believe, rock is supposed to stand for, true rock. It was the 70s and the 80s, just the decadence and, just that, over the top, just overkill about everything. I miss that in music, and the bands that do that now, they're on their final tours, the Motley Crues and the like that, and I'm in my 30s, so I remember some parts of that from hanging around the Big Brothers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember how cool that was, and how bands like Metallica from the old school, Motley Crue, AC/DC, and those kind of bands that just partied hard and just rocked even harder. Those guys. Who doesn't love a rock star?
Absolutely. And obviously you were in a band before. Now you've got this band together, XFactor1. You've been doing it for 9 years. In that, are you starting to see a little notoriety nationwide? Are you still kind of a unknown commodity, I guess, throughout America?
Well, you never know. We've done a few national tours. We've been out there. We literally do. Probably close to 200 shows a year, and we've been coast to coast several times, and all up and down the East Coast, southern U.S. So you get around, you never know who knows you. I mean, we've sold about 80,000 CDs in the last 8 years. So that's all parts of Europe, Canada, everywhere else too. So you never know who's going to know you, but it definitely has been better since we signed on with Megaforce Records on the last CD, and being able to to chart some singles. It's been a real help. The videos have helped, but for the most part, yeah, we still struggle, and there's still that huge disparity between bands like ours that are fairly well known in the Midwest and draw well, and the bands like Avenged Sevenfold who are who are recognized worldwide. The money, the fame, the fortune, the financial status, all that stuff is it's just a huge disparity between guys like us that are still in a van and bands that are on the tour bus. It's a struggle. I got to tell you, it really is.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of bands like yourself that are in that kind of. And I know you've been doing this for a while, but in some ways you're still kind of in your infancy stage. At least you'd like to get to that next level of things, and it's a grind on the road, isn't it?
It's a real grind, brother. I mean, when you think back about the situation with rock, and we were talking about the '80s earlier, when it accounted for 50%, 56, 58%, of all music sales on CDs and concert cash that was coming in, and now we're down to 12 or 14% a piece of that pie now for rock music, and you're talking about 75% slide, and you're talking about more bands out there than ever before, and it's like the middle class, in America, it's pretty much gone, and it's disappearing more and more and more every day, and that's where bands are now. You're either struggling in a club, barely making it from spot to spot, or you're on tour with Slipknot. And there's very, very few in between, and it's extremely hard and getting harder for bands like ours to be able to subsist and exist, because of we got our own bills. People have children and things like that, and it's kind of what the new CD was about, and that's why I titled it Reboot the System, because we kind of thought that the music scene needs a bit of an enema right now.
I want to talk about that CD in just a moment, but I want to get one other thing. You kind of brought up a point. You mentioned the 80s a bunch, and I remember back in the 80s, and I'm a little older than you, but I remember programming-wise at radio stations, you had a whole plethora of music that you could intertwine between each other. It might be rock, it might be pop. Now it seems like everything is segmented. You're either rock, you're over here, you're pop, you're here, you're kind of that. And the one thing about The Dark is this is where a show where we bring up new bands, up-and-coming bands, just to get your name out there. Do you feel it's difficult for you to get yourself on the radio on a consistent basis?
Oh, it's very, very difficult. It's it's the number one thing that almost anybody that's in a band, that actually does, I don't want to say commercially palatable music, rock music, but we are active rock, and no one that I know would take anything over radio airplay. Radio airplay and being in rotation. In stations, I mean, we're holding strong in the mid-50s right now on the active charts, which is about where all of our singles seem to land. But we can't get over that hump, and it's almost impossible to make it over that hump unless you have major management and you have somebody really backing you and pushing you right now. And we're on a small label. Megaforce is famous for signing Metallica, and they're famous for signing Metallica away.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And unfortunately, as much as they help, there's not a big budget situation going on there for us. So, we need lightning in a bottle, and we need to be able to break over the next side, because without that radio play and without the people that get behind you, just like anything else, most of the time, once you get a few people behind you, hopefully, get a few more, and hopefully, you get that snowball effect. But very, very difficult with so many people, out there, and with such a small playlist.
Right.
Most radio stations only have a 15, maybe 20 song playlist at the most. So getting in that rotation spin, it's very difficult.
Not an issue here. We get you on at least a couple, if not 3 times during the week. So we take care of you, okay? We take care of you as best we can, Ricky.
Hey, I appreciate it. we'll come over there with a bottle of Jägermeister and show you guys how much we do appreciate it.
We could arrange that. You mentioned one thing, too, that, obviously you're looking for that big break. We've talked about, how tough it is to be on the road. And then you'd mentioned, too, you guys have families. How tough is it on your families to be out and about? And for that matter, your families see the dream. You want to live that dream, try to get to that next level. How tough is it to sometimes come home at night and say, boy, it's just been a rough go of it?
Well, let me tell you, brother, it's pretty much that way all the time. And that's just, keeping it real.
Right.
I could come on here and talk about, how I woke up with my underwear in the freezer and a girl on each side of me. I could sit here and tell you about, how everything's peaches and cream, and,
right.
I'm sure to some effect, to some degree, rather, some of your listeners, they might want to hear that stuff, but, we're a blue-collar band, and, we don't mind, putting our fans on pedestals, the people who support us, and, just keeping it real in general. Yeah, it's a great party, and no one parties more hard and decadent style than what XFactor1 does. There's nobody we cross paths with that kind of does it, old school Pantera and 80s style like we do. But, we also have, even cell phone bills, you got to keep on. And again, that disparity, when you tell your kids, I have a couple young sons, and you tell them, hey, I'm making a move, and they see your videos, and they're well done, and you tell them that you picked up a tour that may help things and stuff, and then you go back into that regression again, and it's very, very difficult because obviously I want to teach my sons to shoot for their dreams and while they keep one foot in reality, and you have to ask yourself along the lines, hey, is this going to happen? Because in the end, if that lucky break doesn't happen, it kind of gets harder and harder to justify the struggle, particularly, when, you're struggling financially too. I mean,
right.
When the money's right, or at least good, you can almost work around everything,
Right.
But, when it's a struggle financially and, you see your fans, they'll spend $50 to go to a big band show, and then, they'll tell you, try to get you to put them on a guest list for one of your $10 shows.
Right.
It becomes frustrating. It becomes, just so exasperating that it makes it hard to continue. And we've seen a lot of bands fold up shop because they had to come to realization that hey, things weren't happening, and as Root, it probably wasn't one to either. And it's hard to let go, but at the same time, sometimes you have to face those hard truths, and that's kind of where we're at right now. That's where we're really hoping. We thought we recorded the album of our life, and we're really hoping that it continues to do well. But we would like to see it even break open further. It'd be awesome for us.
All right, we're talking with Ricky for the band XFactor1. Let's get to the album Reboot the System. Obviously, they came out last year, and the current song I Blame You. Let's talk about the song. What's the story behind the current single that you have?
Well, we did a tour. We did a really long tour last fall with Mushroom Head. It would have been a year ago after last 2014. So this has been 2013. We did a really long tour at the end of 2013 for like almost 3 months with Mushroom Head, and we met people down in Louisiana. Really hit it off with them. Went back and stayed at their house for a couple of days. We had a day off, and when we were recording the CD, at the beginning of 2014, we were contacted. I got a text about the guy's fiance had committed suicide, and really affected us. And we were in the middle of writing for a reboot, and one of the songs. I Blame You that was coming along musically, it just really inspired me, to write some lyrics that, from his perspective, he did about everything he could to, try to intervene, but, this woman was just so hell-bent on, self-destruction that in the end, he just couldn't save her. And people have to understand, to some degree that, suicide is it's a selfish deed, and it leaves a lot of people, in pain. And, so I just kind of maybe wanted to flip the script there and, put it through the eyes of, her fiance. And we thought it really came out good. We sent it out with some feelers to some of our focus group people, and it really rated really high out of the singles of the one we should lead with. So, we dropped it in November on the radio, and towards the end of December there, we dropped our new video for I Blame You, which you can find on YouTube, and it's doing well. It's getting about 500 hits a day right now, and we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and obviously, before we did this interview, you did talk a little bit about the suicide thing, and as you had mentioned off the air to me, it's something that a lot of people just don't want to talk about, is it?
It's a tough subject, I mean, death is a tough subject to talk about, but, when you take your own life, and when you're just so depressed and just at your wit's end that you don't want to live anymore, life is beautiful. And, we're trying to use this as our own way to, as an intervention and just to bring, attention to something that, it is a tough subject. But the more we talk about it, the better chance of, maybe someone opening up. And, if you're a good listener, you might be able to save someone's life by, just being a friend that just listens to some of the things that's going on in people's head and, just being someone that, can give them some good advice because, it should never be so bad where you don't want to live, and, that's what the video is basically about. Just, telling people, hey, there's someone out there that cares and, if nothing else, we care, and, talk to somebody. And if you see a friend hurting, just listen, because, the alternative is pretty bad,
Yeah, and that's the beauty of music too. It's sometimes it's a huge influence on people, isn't it?
Yeah, it transcends. It transcends and let people feel what you're thinking, and hopefully it bridges two people or connects two people that could help each other. And in this case, it's just got a message that says, hey, don't do it. And it's as simple as that. Don't do it, man. It's, life's worth living. It ain't as bad as you think it is.
Absolutely. We're going to play your new single here coming up in just a moment. We just got a few minutes left with you, Ricky. We're talking with Ricky from the band XFactor1. Have you played in Minnesota yet? Are you planning on coming up here sometime? What's
probably the spring. Yeah, we've been up to Minnesota. We've been up to Mankato.
Okay. Yep.
We've been up through there quite a bit. Was up there with Taproot and Mushroom Head in 2014.
Okay.
And definitely like to get back up in there for sure. We got quite a few stations up there that are helping us out. So, love to just do a little tour and, drop in stations and hopefully do a little chit-chat with you guys, have a few drinks.
Absolutely. We'd more than love to have you on. And how about getting to know the band a little bit more? If somebody wants more information about XFactor1, how can they get that?
Well, we're on Facebook under XFactor1 Official, and you can follow us on Twitter, and, we have all the social mediums out there, Reverb Nation. Check out our stuff, our videos. You can follow us on there, and we're pretty much social medium giants. We self-promote ourselves as much as anybody. So if we're coming to your area, you'll definitely know it.
Awesome. Ricky, a lot of fun talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck in 2015.
Hey, same to you. Happy 2015, everybody. Live your dream, never surrender.
Awesome. And speaking of that latest song from XFactor1, you want to hear it right now, Dark listeners? You got it. It's called I Blame You. It's on the Dark